Okay, so here's an ugly mug shot of me, completely untouched. Little processing done for color correction in Camera Raw, and this is the exported TIFF. And we're going to do two steps to get this happening here. The first step is to cover up and address the larger areas and blemishes of the face. And with that, we're going to use the spot healing brush and the healing brush. So let me show you those two steps first. And again, this is all the larger blemishes, the more obvious things that need to be addressed. Bumps, stray hairs, dead skin, that type of thing. No face that I've ever worked on has ever been perfect, and everyone needs some touching up. Typically about a half an hour per face it can take. So let's do the spot healing brush first. And the spot healing brush in CS5 is doing half the work for you. Both these healing brushes take an area similar to where you're trying to cover up, samples it, and uses it as like a patch or a plug. And with this one, it chooses the area for you, and maybe about 85% of the time it works quite well. And all you're doing is you're just clicking over the areas you want to deal with. The smaller the brush, the better, I've found, because if you go too far, you make a giant patch, it starts to look very fake, and you can see that maybe. So let's undo that. Okay. So again, you want to do a relatively small brush, small little corrections as you go, and just try and cover up all the areas that are pretty obviously in need of some touch-up. Okay. And the other tool to use if you don't have CS5, or if this spot healing brush is choosing not the greatest area for the correction, is you basically just use the healing brush tool. And the healing brush tool works exactly the same way, except that you are telling it where to sample from. So if I want to like address this errant stray hair right here, I'm going to sample the skin near it by holding down the Alt key and clicking my mouse, and then it'll give you a preview of what your patch is going to look like, and you just click it into place. And see, if I do it here, that's not going to work too well because it's sampling from over here. So you want to do another fresh sample by holding the Alt key down here, and that's a better patch. Okay, so run through the face, addressing everything you can that's large. You don't want to have to go too far because the skin smoothing process will take care of a lot of the imperfections just by nature of what it is. So let's pause here. I'm going to pause the recording here and come back when I've finished going through this face, and we'll pick it up with the skin smoothing process. Okay, we're back. And now let's move on to the skin smoothing process. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do is make 3 copies of your image, and you can do that by going up here and saying duplicate layer, or you can just drag your layer in the layer palette down to this icon, which is the duplicate layer icon, I think. I'm not sure what it's called. Yeah, create a new layer. So just keep dragging it down and make 3 copies. Okay, so starting with going from the bottom on the second layer, you want to rename this median 30. The next one, rename that high pass 5. And the top one, rename that mask. I'll explain why in a second. Between the high pass and the median, you want to apply an adjustment layer of levels. Okay. Now, the reason we're renaming these is these are the filters we're going to apply to these layers. And when Joel Grimes explained why he renamed it, it made a lot of sense. It's so you start developing a sense of what you need, and it helps you memorize the order of things and what the filters are that you need. So you don't have to keep referencing old passes that you've done of this. Median 30, if we select that layer, we're going to go to Filter, Noise, Median, and we're going to select a radius of about 30 and apply that. And same with high pass. Filter, Other, high pass, around 5. Okay, so basically how this works is median is your smoothing. High pass is basically a texture map of your face, all the bumps, all the detail. And we're going to set the high pass layer to a transparency of overlay. And now finally, dealing with the mask, we're going to literally apply a mask. So down here on this icon, add a layer mask. Boom, there we go. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the mask layer and selecting the layer mask and painting all the skin areas with a soft brush of pure black, and that will create the skin smoothing effect. And let me show you that now. Let's first select our foreground color, make it absolute black, zeros all the way down, and get a nice soft brush. And just like painting a wall, you can either do the cut-ins right around the detail and the hard-to-get areas, like the trim of a wall, or you can do the large areas with a large brush and then cut in later on, whichever way works for you. So there's two ways of doing this. You can literally start painting right now, and you can start seeing the results coming on pretty strong. But I found that the best way to do this, let me undo that, is to hide the median and the background layer temporarily. And on the mask layer, just do the same thing I was just doing, painting, but now you're seeing visually where you're painting. Okay, so you just want to make sure that you paint all the skin areas with the exception of details like the hair, eyebrows, eyes, nostrils, lips. Don't cover those with anything because it'll look really, really fake. And I'll show you actually what it looks like in a second. So let me pause here. I'm going to finish painting this face, and when I come back, we'll look at the results. Okay, we're back. I was going to show you what happens if you go too far and you apply this paint to areas that you shouldn't. So now that we've covered it and we can see where we've painted, let's bring back the median and the background layer. And as you can see, it's very smooth, but it's also very fake looking. We're going to address that as well in a second. But I wanted to show you what happens if you paint over areas that you shouldn't, like hair and eyes. And it looks absolutely terrible. And if you make a mistake like this and you go too far and you do a bad paint job, it's all fixable. Let's hide the median and background again, and as you can see, we've painted over the eyes and the eyebrows. To correct any paint job error, you switch your foreground color to white paint and just paint over the areas you didn't mean to paint, and that effectively erases the effect from that area. Okay, and let's bring back the median and background, and you can see what I mean. Here's all the detail coming back that we didn't want to paint over. Okay, so you definitely want to keep the eyes, windows of the soul, don't you know? You want to keep those visible and clean of this effect. You want to keep the nostril area clean because that's a detail as well, and the lips obviously. Okay, so we have a very smooth and very artificially smooth face, and the reason is because the effect is simply too strong right now, and we are going to address that by ramping down the opacity of our effects. Remember, the median layer is the smoothing aspect, so let's bring that down about 50%. Already looking a little more natural, a little better. High pass is all the details, the pores, all the little bumps and stuff like that. And when I hide it, you'll see now it's just smooth and artificial, and this gives you the detail back. If it's too strong, then just bring that down a little bit. So those are the two layers that you're going to adjust to get your level of effect and naturalness, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you're trying to achieve with it. And the levels adjustment between high pass and median is just there to bridge the gap and blend these two layers together and give it a little bit of a sheen. Typically, you take your medium slider, your mid-level slider, and just play with it and get, you know, approximately where you want to be with that. Oh, look at this. We have some paint here that we didn't want, so let's get rid of that. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's a little too much on the mid-tones there. Let's bring that down again. Okay. So here we are, a relatively cleaned up, smooth face. Just like anything else with this, it's all modifiable, and it's all subject to what you're comfortable with and what looks right to you. The brush, if you set your flow, it'll be less drastic of an effect, and the more you cover, you paint over, the more effect is applied. So you can ease off that, and in areas that you just say, I don't think this looks right here, you can phase it out a little bit by erasing the effect partially or completely. So again, it's as long as you save it as a multi-layer PSD, you always have the option of correcting these layers and adjusting them and tweaking them. And that's basically the skin smoothing process. And if you have any questions about this, you can contact me through my website and ask away. You should visit Joel Grimes' website. I think it's just joelgrimes.com for other tutorials. He's very generous with imparting information and techniques. And one of the reasons I'm doing these is because his example of doing that. And this is a fantastic technique that retains the detail of the skin, but also smooths it out. Whereas other techniques just blur the skin and it looks a little too airbrushed and unrealistic. This gives it the detail needed to convincingly make it still look like skin. So I think it's a great technique, and it works best on well-lit faces, and that's it. So hopefully this has been helpful, and please stay tuned for other tutorials in the future, and thanks for watching.